On, guys, coming to you from the world famous Stub Cycles in beautiful Houston, Texas. And oh yeah, look what I get to bring to you today, guys. This is a 2019 Yamaha R1. I have been dying to throw a leg over one of these machines and get it on the road. So let's dive into it. This motorcycle's reputation is going to precede it. Yamaha's R1 has been a absolute monster in the leader class sport bike category, but it's not just in performance or technology. We're going to be riding this bike in mode A with all of the nannies as numbed as we can get it. Good looking TFT screen, kind of small, but look, that's not why we're here. That's why we're here. The noise that this bike makes is amazing. So without wasting any more time, we have got to get this machine on the road and see what this thing is like to ride. Now, before I get too deep into this, I've got to send a huge shout out to Hunter, Tommy, and the rest of the crew over at Stub Cycles for allowing me the opportunity to throw a leg over this machine and bring it to you. There is nothing that sounds as good as an R1. It's just absolutely there's no words to describe it. Amazing. Oh my goodness gracious. So this motorcycle is definitely not stock. It's got a Tosh full system. I'm not sure who flashed it, if it has been flashed, but that's not going to take away from any of the fun that we're going to have. So the Yamaha R1, no compromises sport bike, but I got to tell you, it's pretty comfortable as far as sport bikes go. Fully adjustable suspension, as you would expect. But in terms of the setup, in terms of overall stiffness, this bike's really comfortable. It's a lot more compliant than I thought that it was going to be. Plenty of room to duck down. Seat's not too hard. This is surprising, guys. The way that this machine is absorbing these expansion joints, little undulations in the road, not bad. Good job on Yamaha for putting together a sport bike that doesn't beat you to death. Brakes feel nice on this bike. It's got a really strong initial grab to it. Oh yeah, that expansion joint right back there is normally pretty harsh, and this bike just kind of absorbed it. I'm at a bit of a loss for words, guys. Coming to this bike as a bit of a Gixxer fanboy. This R1 is great. One thing I do want to point out about the R1 going down the highway here, absolutely zero buzziness in the handlebars or in the foot pegs. This engine is incredibly smooth. I really like the quick shifter on this bike too, guys. It's got a very direct feel. It doesn't feel sloppy or like plungery. Is plungery a word? So, just shy of 6 feet tall, 32-inch inseam. I am comfortably on the balls of my feet. So, some similarities here, guys. It feels, in terms of acceleration rate with throttle input, it feels a lot like the GSX-R 1000. Still getting used to this clutch, a little bit grabby on the clutch, but I think that's just a get to know you type of a situation, I think with a little bit of acclimation to this clutch, I'd be a lot smoother with that takeoff just then. But in terms of wheelbase, this motorcycle has the same wheelbase as the GSX-R 1000 at just a tenth shy of 56 inches. So very familiar in that respect, the way that it handles. So let's see how she gets on the highway. Very similar to the Gixxer, but with one difference. It feels like it's got more mid-range punch. Now, again, this bike is tuned, apparently, or assumingly it's tuned, but it does have an aftermarket full exhaust. And the bike that I'm comparing it to, in terms of feel, would be my own GSX-R 1000. So, extremely similar in character. But you'd kind of expect that. They're both about the same horsepower, about the same torque. The R1 from the factory, a little bit lighter though, not by a ton, but by about 2 or 3 kilograms, or about 7 or 8 pounds lighter. Not that it matters, not that it makes that big of a difference, but it's worth noting because that is a difference, although it's minor. But just cruising down the freeway, very similar feel. Slightly slower in terms of tip in, but very comfortable getting down the road. It's got an aftermarket windscreen. I believe that's a Buick. It's getting the air around my head nice. God, this is such a nice bike. And again, with one of the key takeaways being the smoothness, which is worth mentioning. A typical flat plane 4-cylinder, which is every other inline 4-cylinder out there, you're going to have a bit of buzziness to it. It's just the nature of those engines. This isn't like that at all, guys. It feels exactly like you're riding a parallel twin. It feels a lot like a V4, like the Aprilia. There's something just so endearing about a liter class 4 bike. They're such pussycats and they're such sweethearts when you just want to cruise. Yeah, just buzzing along here on the highway, just a slight rolling of the throttle, and this bike absolutely starts to march, but it's so predictable. There's a bit of a space with the throttle where you're just tipping in and it's being a little bit polite about how it's going about work. But you crest that, it's almost like you come up on a little bit of a ramp on an older ride-by-wire bike that's got a quick throttle on it. And so it's nice and just linear and buttery at mild throttle input, but roll onto it a little harder and it absolutely rips. That's pretty cool. I just absolutely love how this bike makes power on partial throttle. It's not a huge hit, but it's a noticeable hit, and you're rewarded for your noticeable hit with that exhaust note. And that's really when you start to feel the engine pulsing underneath you. You can kind of feel it in the handlebars a little bit. Such a different riding experience than any of the flat plane engines, any of the what you would consider to be the other four-cylinder bikes out there, whether it's Suzuki, Honda, Kawasaki, BMW. This is such a uniquely different riding experience. And I gotta tell you guys, now I see why so many people swear by the R1. The ergonomics on this bike are really comfortable once you get rolling with it. Oh, yeah. All right, let's get her back onto the highway. Got some nannies slapping our wrist a little bit. The rider aids, the nannies, if you will, are relatively quick to step in, even in neutered form, the way we've got the bike set up now, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. Just something that I noticed is this bike is very similar to that Aprilia that I rode in that respect, with how the rider aids kind of dial you back a little bit if it thinks something crazy is going on. This bike is worth a ride, guys, for sure. So here's what I'll say. If you're in the market for any of the leader class bikes and you've got some brand loyalty, I would suggest riding a Yamaha just so that you can experience it. The thing is, with this bike, it's almost like you have to check a box that says, yes, I've ridden the R1 and I have chosen this other bike. Like, just to make sure. Are you sure? Are you sure you want that other bike? Have you ridden the R1? Maybe you should ride it again. This is really changing my mind about this bike, guys. When I first sat on an R1, it didn't fit for some reason. You know how that is with motorcycles. Fit is such a... it's one of the, if not the biggest things about the buying equation. Do you feel comfortable on the bike? Do your hands fall where you want them to fall? Foot position. You know, this bike is not super committed feeling. Similar to the GSX-R 1000. But now that I'm riding this, I am impressed with how this bike comes together, from the total package, the total experience of this bike. You know, between the ergonomics, the sound of it, you got great brakes. I mean, what's not to love about this thing? The smoothness going down the highway I wasn't expecting. But now that I've had a chance to experience it, I see why smoothness and that initial torque that guys were talking about with this machine, I see why so many guys focus on that with this bike. It's really not outright power. Don't get me wrong, this thing's got a ton of power. It's the same as a Gixxer Thal. But there's a lot more that comes with this bike than just outright power. Little gurgles on decel are nice. Wow, what a fun experience. I was not expecting this out of this bike, guys. So we're going to come back here to the MSF course. We're going to run her through our favorite S-turn. No, we are not. There we go. Came in a little hot. So this bike, definitely changing my mind about the Yamaha R1. I think that might be a nature of the tune that's on this bike. Little gurgle gurgle. Overall, guys, I gotta say, I'm coming away impressed. First blush, I wasn't really thinking that I would come across impressed. I mean, I've got a Gixxer 1000. You got to do a lot to impress me, but power output, the bike's got it all. And it's the rest of the story that the R1 really brings to it. The noise, the ergonomics, it's just all a very fun, very capable package. And again, I can see why so many of you guys have requested this bike. I've been dying to ride one of these myself, and now that I have, I gotta say, I wouldn't mind having this one here, guys. Yamaha, you've done a great job. And with that, listen, if you've made it this far into the video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It helps the channel out a ton. But with that, I'll catch you on the next one. Y'all take it easy.